When you talk about bumping a player, it's pretty much
great courage. One that says the bump is dead, that's how you deliver it.
What is going on, YouTube universe? My name is Trent and welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, where we discuss everything Australian rules football. And today, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to turn our attention to our tips. Not our tips, our footy tips, that is, and we're looking ahead to round 16. The first time this season where we can proudly say the bye rounds. I stumbled already. See, we've only just started. I'm already stumbling words. We're kicking it off great. The bye rounds are well and truly behind us, and we can move on without any worrying about fixturing and all that bullshit. It is so good, isn't it? Do you just take the time to appreciate it? It doesn't fucking happen often. But before we move forward to round 16, let's take the chance to reflect on round 15 as we always do. I tipped 5 out of 6. Again, another solid round. The only blemish was, unfortunately, I decided to side with Port Adelaide over Brisbane, and that's probably something I'm not going to do for the rest of the season. The round kicked off with Carlton taking on Geelong, and Carlton absolutely decimated that Geelong defence. I can't get my head around how Geelong started the season off with that undefeated streak, and everyone was wondering how they were going to find their first loss. And since that point in time, they have struggled to find a win. I probably gave them the kiss of death because I turned around and said, oh, they won't miss the top 4 from here. Surely not. Yes, they will. Port Adelaide was absolutely dismantled by Brisbane in Adelaide, now showing that Adelaide is no longer the fortress that Port Adelaide once made it to be. Sydney fucked around for a little bit, but GWS found out because Sydney ran away with the win. Still, only with that 1 loss and 3 games clear on top of the ladder. Melbourne managed to hold off a fast finishing North Melbourne. Essendon, as we expected, put West Coast to the sword, and Fremantle, in a bit of a scrappy contest, managed to fall over the line against the Gold Coast by a few goals. So 5 out of 6 for myself. Very happy with that outcome. However, just as the week before, while I managed to tip 5 out of 6, there was a handful in the tipping competition that had another perfect round. So congratulations must go to Team Wiggles, The Blooper Reel, Benny Craig, Some Cripple, My Big Force Kin, Nado, Dusty Fendoff 4, and Gramercy Riffs 78. Congratulations once again, all of you managing to tip a perfect round in the competition this week. Now we can turn our attention to the competition as a whole, and for the first time in a long time, we have a definitive top 10. We have Gramercy Riffs in 10th place, and we have Madge Tigers 77 in 9th place, both equally on 81 tips. We then have Matt Lamb 24 in 8th and Benny Craig in 7th, both on 82 tips. We have Dan Cash in 6th place with 83 tips. We then have Team Wiggles in 5th, My Big Force Kin in 4th, and Some Cripple in 3rd, all equally on 84 tips. We then have Dusty Fendoff 4 on 86 tips, and after missing the beginning of the competition, somebody that has been a mainstay with some of these tipping comps that I've been doing over recent years, Frio90 has managed to capture the lead on 87. Very well-rounded top 10. All of those particular coaches, players, however you want to look at it for a tipping competition, have been tipping incredibly well this year. I myself dropped from 17th to 18th, but I'm still within 3 tips of finishing in the top 10, and that's where I'm shooting for this round. While we only have the 24 in the tipping competition this year, which is down on previous years, I just want to take the time to say I appreciate all 23 members that got on board with me this year. I'm hoping this is the beginning of something bigger and better that we can continue on to do year after year after year. So, as our first hip and shoulder competition, I thank each and every one of you for getting on board. It is time though, now that we have congratulated Courtney for sitting on top of the ladder, we have congratulated the perfect round tippers for round 15, let's look ahead at round 16, which goes down tonight because I've been slacking yet again. Hang on. No Thursday night. Okay, so I don't know why we've got no Thursday night football, and for some fucking reason in the back of my mind, I thought there was a footy game on today, so we're actually going to be getting our tips out a day early, so I'm actually glad we're not slacking. I was worried that dropping the podcast tomorrow was going to be interfering in the round already starting and then dropping the week prior's podcast, which is what I did last week, but everything's back on track because the fixturing has actually shined upon us this week. It all kicks off tomorrow night at the Gabba, with Brisbane hosting Melbourne. I think the fact that they're at the Gabba just solidifies Brisbane for me. Brisbane have shifted from, in the opening 7 rounds, being one of the worst teams in moving the ball forward defensively to the forward line and generating scores, to now being the number 1 ranked team in many aspects, forward half of the ball. That just goes to show the growth and the game style that they're kind of under now taking has really turned their season around. Last week, it showed that no Christian Petrarca now leaves open availability for players like Viney and Oliver to now be tagged. Oliver's playing at a career worst, and I think you could attribute that to off-camera kind of pre-season bullshit that went down. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded at the end of the year, to be completely honest with you. A lot of players underperforming. Bailey Fritsch is getting a reprieve after having a quiet season, especially over the last few weeks. I think Brisbane make a statement piece here. I'm going to go Brisbane by 34 points. Saturday afternoon, North Melbourne taking on the Bulldogs. At Marvel Stadium, both teams play at Marvel well enough. I'm actually tempted here to go North Melbourne. Something about the way North Melbourne has been playing, when you look at how they played against Collingwood, okay, they fumbled a 9-goal lead, right? But they still played incredibly well. They were fast finishing against Melbourne. Do they do it against the Doggies? Oh, this is going to be a hard one. I'm going to go the Bulldogs for now, but I think I see a realm of possibility here where North Melbourne get up and win. SCG, Sydney taking on Fremantle. Sydney's going to be too strong at home. Way too strong at home. People First Stadium, Gold Coast taking on Collingwood. Interesting game, because you'd think Gold Coast would be the lock here, given that they are very hard to defeat up at People's First. Collingwood, though, finding themselves in some really incredible form. Again, another game that could be swayed by ins and outs. I know Jordan De Goey is coming back in this week. I am going to go Collingwood. I think if any team at the moment could knock Gold Coast off up there, I think Collingwood are the shout. But I think Gold Coast here, I think they really hinge their season on this particular win or loss. If they win, they look at playing finals. If they lose, it's going to be another year where they just fall short and they're left wondering why. Saturday night, Adelaide GWS. We have seen GWS go down to Adelaide many times and get the job done, and I'm expecting them to do so again this weekend. Adelaide have just been one of the biggest disappointments this year versus, when you look at reality versus expectation. A lot of people, like myself, thought Adelaide would have been a top 5, top 4 team this year. I've been vastly unimpressed with what Adelaide have dished up, knowing how close they came to playing finals last year. Like they lost out on a chance by that one game, which afforded them this year so many allowances and opportunities, and they have fumbled every single one of them. I don't understand. MCG, Geelong taking on Essendon. Geelong are due to bounce back. They're due to bounce back. I don't know whether Essendon roll the tag on Tom Stewart like other teams have been doing. I don't know what player would play that negating role. Whether you play like a Kyle Langford as a defensive forward instead. I think, though, Geelong might get up and win here. They're not going to be with Tom Hawkins, which is a little bit of a shame because I think Tom Hawkins and Jeremy Cameron as a double spearhead could have been very dangerous. But I'm going to back Geelong to finally turn their season around. To round out the weekend, we have 3 games on Sunday, the first of which is St Kilda taking on Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium. This is a game to me that screams St Kilda getting up at Marvel, especially with how Port Adelaide have been performing. They underperform at home. I really don't expect them to start improving on the road. St Kilda have been there about. Last week they came close. Did they play last week? Let me just check. No, they didn't play. The week before, they came incredibly close to Brisbane in Brisbane. So, you know, the fact that they were able to keep up with the #1 scoring team in the comp tells me back at home they can get the job done. So I'm going to go with St Kilda in Marvel. MCG, Richmond taking on Carlton. As much as I would love to see Richmond get up, it is not going to happen. Carlton are going to win this one quite convincingly here. Tom Lynch, on the back of a bye, goes and does his good hamstring. He is out for 2 weeks. Dylan Grimes this week has announced he's undertaken back surgery. I'm going to expect a retirement announcement from him within the coming weeks as well. I think he is done. I just want to see, for the rest of the year, a competitive battling spirit. You know, the same spirit we saw Richmond take on Essendon, the same spirit we saw them take on Geelong. I just want to see a fight. I just want to see Richmond come out and fight tooth and nail. We don't want to see these 40, 50, 60 plus point losses, especially as Richmond fans. I'm hanging in tough. Richmond had their backs against the wall against Carlton come round 1 this year, had fuck all people on the bench and still managed to keep it a tight contest. Hopeful that can happen, but I mean, Carlton are rolling on with a fuckload of momentum. This could be, as much as I don't want it to be, a 10 plus goal smacking. I don't want it to be, but reality is it very well could be. And the final game of the round is West Coast taking on Hawthorn at Optus Stadium. I wouldn't rule West Coast out for this game. I mean, Hawthorn are rolling on with some good footy, but West Coast at home have been very good to watch. Very tough game to tip this one. I'm going to go with West Coast. This could be a game that, again, I change my opinion on based on ins and outs. Harley Reid should be back this week, so that's going to give him a lift. I don't know whether Tim Kelly comes back in this week. I know they've got a couple more outs that they could potentially bring back as well. That's going to be a very interesting watch, but I think the Eagles can get up and win. So let's go, reflect. We're going with Brisbane, Western Bulldogs, Sydney, Collingwood, GWS, Geelong, St Kilda, Carlton, and West Coast. Thank you very much for joining me for another edition of Footy Tips for the 2024 season. Again, I thought there was genuinely a game on tonight. The fact that there isn't means that this is going to get out early. Thank Christ. Tomorrow morning, my podcast for round 15 will drop. Again, I would have liked to have dropped it a little bit earlier in the week, but it is still going to drop. It's still going to be a good time. I do appreciate everything that you guys do in the way of support when it comes to watching my videos, commenting, liking. I would appreciate it if you did take the time to share it out as well. But please, do continue to like, do continue to comment. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, get on board the community we are building here. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.